So this was an economic analysis of the option of testing everybody in the population, all women in the population, for high-risk cancer genes, both breast and ovarian cancer genes like BRCA1, BRCA2, and RAD51C, RAD51D, BRIP1, and PALB2 gene mutations. So these are the general suspects today in clinical practice, which are actionable gene mutations. And if you identify people who carry a fault in these genes, you can definitely do stuff to offer them options which for screening and or prevention to reduce their risk and minimize their risk of getting cancer in the future. The current system of the way we identify people at risk is solely dependent on having had cancers in the family or having had cancer themselves, for people to having had cancer themselves. So it's dependent on the presence of cancer in the family and the pattern of cancer and distribution of cancer. And if you hit about a 1 in 10 chance of carrying a fault in the gene, depending on a mathematical calculation or a probability, then the NHS or the NICE guidelines say yes, you can have your test. But if you had, say, 1 in 9 or a 1 in 8 chance and not a 1 in 10 chance of carrying it, then they say, well, you can't have the test. So there's a threshold or restriction applied, but a 1 in 8 or a 1 in 7 chance is not a 1 in 0 chance. So clearly a large number of people are missed, and we suspect about half the people at risk are missed in this way. Also, we've done other research to show that only about 3% of people who carry the BRCA1 and 2 genes, for example, across the whole of London population have been identified so far. So the large majority of people remain unidentified who are at risk, we estimate, and there's therefore huge underutilization of this technology which is now available to test people and identify people at risk to improve prevention and reduce burden of disease. So we've tested the hypothesis of trying to offer testing to everybody. We've done some complex modeling and economic modeling, and we show that actually if this sort of system was pursued, then it would be more beneficial, would save more lives, prevent more cancers, and actually be cost effective also for both the UK and the US health systems. So it's a different way of thinking and a different change in paradigm. And on the back of this, we would call for big research implementation studies to try and evaluate the impact of doing something like this and assess the mechanism of delivering it. And as all modeling is based on assumptions, so some of the assumptions need to be borne out, and this therefore requires some more research. We have done the studies in the Jewish population and shown that it would be cost effective and it works there, and we developed models of delivering it there, and there have been other studies in the world, both in Israel and Canada, which have also demonstrated that. But it's not been done in the general population before, which is the non-Jewish population, and that's what this was initially about. You build cost effectiveness models. It compares one strategy against the current standard of care and the current strategy, and you look at both the costs and the consequences. So every cost in the pathway, from the point of view identifying people for their counseling, for their treatment, their screening, their prevention, treatment of cancer, comes into play. You also involve what's called utility scores, or health scores, or quality of life for each stage, health state an individual may be in. And you are looking at an endpoints of how many cancers people will get from the two different strategies, so how many cancers you can prevent, and therefore what your potential quality adjusted life, your impact would be. So that's your survival multiplied by your quality of life. And these are metrics which are recognized by NICE. The balance of costs and consequences are within what's called less than £30,000 per QALY threshold, which NICE uses. Then they say it's worth investing in, because for £30,000 of cost, you're saving one life here. And that's the current threshold for investing in a new intervention. In the NHS, different countries have different thresholds. In the US, it's about $100,000 per QALY. Parts of Europe, it's 20,000 to 30,000 euros per QALY. So we show that it's well under that threshold to invest in something like this, and you would save more cancers, prevent more cancers, thousands more cancers, by changing tack but it is a different way of thinking, and it will have its challenges which need to be ironed out. So yes, the figures in the paper. The paper is published in the Journal of National Cancer Institute. We published it in January this year. All the details of the analysis is fairly complicated. About 120 parameters in the modeling are there, including the cost. But the bottom line is it also costs a lot of money to treat cancers. And if you take into account the costs of treatment of cancer and people who die from getting cancer, then on balance, you're saving lives, and it's worth investing in based on the threshold set by the government or other institutional bodies like that.